Live. Welcome to the next installment in this speed run. We're going from 500 to 2200 plus, playing one knight f3, aka the Reti, and the Nimzowitsch Sicilian versus with black versus one e4. If our opponent plays d4 or something else, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But we are going all the way up to 2200. We're going to get to see how players of various levels react to these openings. Subscribe if you want to follow along and stay updated. But let's get into the action. We were playing 5-5. And I will... Okay, we've got white. By the way, we are going to... Our goal today is to get to 1100. Oh my goodness, they just aborted. I guess that's one thing you can... that can happen when you play one knight f3. Okay. Let's see if we can get a game. 1131. I believe this is our highest rated opponent yet in this speed run. Knight c6. Now, if you've been following along, you know that when we see knight c6, very often our reply is d4. We don't really want to let them get e5 and get a nice pawn center very easily. So let's play d4. And let's just get back to our plan with bishop g2 at castles. And I think I like castles here. Usually we want to play c4. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And then our idea at some point in this structure is usually to play knight e5. Bishop e4 is an interesting move. I mean, it kind of makes me less excited about knight e5 because I don't know if I want to allow this trade. But I'll just play knight c3 and attack this bishop. This looks extremely risky because now this piece is loose and it's going to be attacked here. I'll start by taking this. And yeah, it feels like there could be some tactics here. For instance, if I play knight e5, then black would probably have to take. I could take on e4. Black's knight goes back to c6. Is that any good? I'm not sure. Queen a4 also looks pretty tempting. Let's try this. This makes knight e5 into more of a threat by pinning this knight. I don't know if this is the most precise move. Queen c2. A lot of interesting moves, but this one looks pretty good. And I think, okay. Where do I want to go here? I could, of course, take this, but I kind of want to... So, for instance, knight e5. Bishop takes e5 seems forced. D takes e5, knight c5. I think that looks quite good for me. Yeah, let's... Knight d2 is also interesting. Let's give this a shot, though. So if bishop takes e5, yeah, I'm going to take with a pawn. I could also take the knight on e4, but I didn't like that as much. Okay, so knight c5. Now, few options here. Queen takes c4 looks like a very solid move. There's also bishop takes c6 check, and that would, after b takes c6, queen takes c6, knight d7 is forced, then rook d1. I think this looks really good because then my opponent's king is going to be caught in the center. So basically, this pressure is going to prevent black from castling, and I'm not sure what they're going to do here. Okay, king e7, but again, this looks super risky, so I could go bishop g5, but f6, takes. Not sure if that actually gets me anywhere. What else could I do? I mean, it is sort of tempting just to open up the opponent's king. Oh, I could, but then I could take on f6. Yeah, I can actually take on f6 with a bishop. That must be good. Probably, okay. So my point here is takes. If knight takes, I get the queen. If king takes, though, I get to play rook takes d7. I get the piece back with an extra pawn. The opponent's king is in the open. So let's see, 3, 6. I'm actually up 1 pawn at the moment, but more importantly, black's king is absolutely exposed. And my opponent's going to have to be careful here to avoid a checkmate, because threatening the queen, but also queen f3 check could be coming. So if I go queen f3 check, king g6, queen g4, yeah, this looks like it should be probably a forced checkmate, because the queen then comes to g7. Okay, queen g7, king f5. Well, I guess rook f7 is good enough. There's also e4. Is that a faster mate? I mean, rook f7 looks quite decisive, but I'm thinking about e4. Does that lead to where's the checkmate here? Rook. Okay, e4, king takes e4, rook d4, king f5, rook f4. So I guess king f3 is the only way to prolong mate, but okay. Good game. I saw there's a question in the chat. When do you play knight at e5? Good question. In this structure, if black played, just sort of develops normally, knight e5 works like, it's a little bit counterintuitive, because we're sort of the whole argument about why the setup is not ideal for black is the knight is awkwardly placed on c6, but then we go out of our way to trade it. But the point is, if we get to capture here, black's going to be left with these doubled c pawns that are going to be weak. Like, we can play queen a4 and start attacking that pawn. But if they take, then we drive this knight away, and we have a ton of pressure on d5. So knight e5, somewhat paradoxically, is ultimately one of our main plans against knight c6. I would say it's also often a good idea when this light squared bishop comes out, especially if the bishop comes out to g4 and you can get a tempo on it. But even f5, that really softens up black's queenside, and knight e5 is a way to start chipping away on the long diagonal. Okay, let's get back in the mix. d4, this is our first d4 that we've seen. So I will get, oh, it's a London. What do I want to do against the London? Well, I have been going for this e6, c5 setup. Let's just go for that. Of course, I am working, so, the openings I'm playing are from my chessable repertoires, which so far I've got one for white, and I've got one for black versus e4, and then the one I still have to do is the third part, which is versus d4 and everything else. So that's what I'm working on. C takes d4. What am I supposed to do against this? I think bishop e7. Does queen b6 do anything? I don't know. Usually white plays e takes d4, because c takes d4 with the knight not being able to come to c3 is, like, not necessarily the greatest. This is okay for white too, though. Okay, I think I'm going to go after this bishop now. And I could wait a move. Guess I can just castle. So, okay, yeah, kind of a dry position, but we're going to try to get the bishop pair and then use that to our advantage. I wonder, maybe against c takes d4 I should have played queen b6. I'm not sure. I'm playing g6 because I'm anticipating taking this, and then h7 would have been threatened. So I'm just trying to shut down this bishop. Let's go ahead and take this now that white moved their rook off the file. And what do I want to do here? Maybe bishop d7. Eventually I might want to play e5. Let's start with bishop d7. I can think about f6, e5 at some point. Maybe knight b4 is an idea. Knight b4 might actually be a threat right here. Okay. Knight b4, bishop e2. Doesn't really do anything. I guess if I play knight a5, I do chase this queen back and defend this, so that seems fine. So queen goes back. Kind of want to play b5, knight c4 here. Let's try this and infiltrate with the knight. And if b3, then those dark squares will be softened up a bit. That would be, I think, a bit of a concession for my opponent. Okay, I'll play knight c4. I don't really mind losing if I have to get rid of this light squared bishop. It's on the same color as all my pawns, so that would be giving up the bishop pair, but this bishop is not very impressive at the moment. So far the opponent is playing quite solid. So I could recapture. This does give me the option of playing knight takes b2, hitting the queen. So like queen b3, knight takes d3, knight takes f8, knight takes c1. I think I might be... Actually, I think that just leads to a massive trade, so I'm not super in for that. Now, if white takes, I'm going to take with the b pawn and be pretty happy about it, because that's going to give me a nice pawn chain and an open b file to work with. So definitely would not mind my opponent capturing, and they do play b3. Probably a good choice. Could play knight b2 and trade my knight for that bishop, but yeah, I'm not super excited about that. Maybe I'll just go back to d6. Generally a good square for the knight. It blocks my bishop, which isn't ideal. Yeah, sure. I want to keep some pieces on the board to try to outplay my opponent somehow. Would love to take control of the c file if I can. White should maybe try to get a knight into e5. I can think about advancing these pawns over here, just grabbing some more space on the queen side. Okay, queen e2. Let's contest the c file. If white takes, they will have to give that up. White could play e4, but then they're going to end up with an isolated pawn on d4. So I think I'm fine with that. Knight f3, sure. So I could play f6 to prevent knight e5, but I think I'm fine with just allowing that. But I have to figure out what I actually want to do here. Let's do queen b7, control this, get ready to meet knight e5 with f6, chasing the knight back. Also, one thing I have to watch out for is b4 bishop a6, so I should keep that in mind. Okay, is there anything wrong with f6? Am I scared of this sack? I don't think so, because I can play bishop f8 and defend with the queen. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think so. Wonder if my opponent will go for this sack. Maybe f6 was too risky, because they could also just go back to g4. I don't know if I'm you know, getting anything for loosening my queen side. And now that I think about it, knight takes, h takes, queen g4 first looks concerning. So I would say I'm kind of regretting this move at the moment. Okay, they do go to knight g4, so I'm kind of relieved about that. Could even play h5, and they would have to go knight h2, I guess, but yeah, no reason to do that at the moment. But okay, what am I actually gonna do to try to get my own play started? A5 maybe? Very tense game so far. I'm not afraid of knight h6 check. I would just play king g7. I think my opponent might have missed a good chance to sack on g6 there. Or at least it would have been pretty dangerous. We are starting to build up an advantage on the clock, so that's something. Haven't really made a whole lot of headway on the board here, I have to say. King g7 is probably a move I want to play at some point, just to kind of defend all my pawns a little bit better. Well, I'm definitely going to play it now, because this is attacked twice, so I need to defend that. Queen f4. Does this threaten anything? I guess knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen takes d6. Oh, and queen h6. Oh my goodness. Actually, yeah, this is very frightening. Okay. Let's drop back and defend this. Yeah, I would say my only saving grace in this game is that I'm getting farther and farther ahead on the clock. So I'm hoping that'll let me win eventually, because yeah, I don't have a whole lot. Positionally speaking, I guess I'm doing fine, but also not a ton really going for me. Maybe I can play bishop a3 now. I would love to take over the c file. So I'm going to hit that rook and hope that forces a rook exchange, which will give me control of the c file. Okay, they can do that, but I think now I can take and play rook c8, and this is going to amount to more or less the same thing. Okay, and how can I use this to my advantage now? Rook c3. Yeah, let's do it. Bishop d6 is also a move to keep in mind. The queen's a little short of squares. Knight g5. If queen f3, maybe knight g5. So queen g4. That does hit this. Should I play f5? Probably. This queen is almost trapped. Like bishop e7. Not quite trapped yet. I mean, I could just repeat once. I could play bishop g5. Okay, well, we'll repeat once. And probably play like queen c7. Thinking about coming in here. This queen is sort of trapped over here on the king side without a ton to do. So this bishop is kind of in danger of falling off. I guess bishop d3 is fine. But if white traded, I would come in with a check and pick off that bishop. Still, knight g5 in my opponent's position is, I guess, completely fine, really. Yeah, what to do here? Bishop e7 forces a queen trade, but that doesn't do a ton for me. h6, queen h4. g5, queen h5. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. Yeah, kind of having a hard time seeing how to make any progress here. Yeah, what can I even do? Gosh. I guess I'm gonna force the queen trade and just play this endgame without queens on the board. Because at least I have control of this file, but yeah, it's gonna be awfully hard to win this game. I just didn't see what else I could do there, really, because if I tried to come in with my queen, then my opponent's queen comes in. Okay, and I think I want to do this. Start pushing this. I mean, objectively, white's position is certainly completely fine. I guess I have to try to bring my king over here. Oh wait, that might be a blunder though. Okay, we're back in it. We are back in it, people. Do I want to go probably here and then d4, I guess? That is another pawn, so I think I'm finally going to win this game. Rook c1. I think I can just go for this pin. There's no discovered checks. So that sort of ties up white. I'm not scared of bishops of opposite color. They could have played bishop b5 and defended that. Wow, incredibly tough game. My opponent made really no mistakes for a very long time until the end of the game. But finally we just ground them down. Now okay, I guess the engine doesn't think this was a good idea. Well, it thinks it's complicated, but not winning for white. Wow, okay, great game. Very tough game. We're at 1050. We're halfway to 1100. Let's play the Sicilian. Hopefully get a more exciting game this time. This is one upside of the Nimzowitsch Sicilian is sometimes your opponent pre-moves, more often d4 than bishop c4, but either way you get to take a free center pawn, which is very nice. What do we think? Are they going to sack bishop takes f7? No. All right. Well, let's play d5. Let's defend this, hit this bishop. Why not? I guess I'll block with a bishop. Okay. Sure. Why not? Let's just keep developing. We're up a pawn. We have a very nice, very solid center here. Just want to get the rest of the pieces into the game. Sure, I guess I'll take. c4 is also interesting, cutting this pawn off. Both look very good. Just kind of keep it simple. Bishop b4 check. Bishop c5. Bishop b4 check, knight d2. I don't know if I see what that accomplishes. I'll do this. The knight can't move because, oh, well, I thought the knight couldn't move because I would take on f2. Very different opponent type. Last game we ran into someone who was like super solid London player. You know, very dry technical game. Now, absolute maniac. Certainly giving us some more openings to take advantage of. But this type of player can also put pressure on some opponents too. Okay, does queen f6 check do anything? I'm not sure. I could just castle, of course. sure, we'll do that. No rush, we are up several pawns, so it's tempting to try to just checkmate the opponent outright, but we can also play it slow and just get our pieces into the game and win slowly. Okay, they want a5. Not sure how much I really care about that. I guess I could play a5 myself. Could also just play rook c8 or something. Or even this. Well, generally trading is not a bad idea when you're up material, so I'm fine with that. Let's see, we're up, I think we're up 2 pawns. But these are actually past connected center pawns, so that's a huge positional asset we've got. At some point we want to advance these pawns, but I might bring the rook into the game first. One problem for my opponent is they are going to want to get these pieces into play, but it's tough to move them without offering further trades, which also benefit me. Okay, opponent started out playing very quickly, now slowing down. I'm fine with this trade. I think I want to play rook c8. Don't care about this. I want to come in here with my rook to c2. Okay, knight a3 defends this. Reasonable. Let's just go ahead and block that, not allow any queen takes a7 business. Rook f1, yep. Go queen e7. Connecting the rooks is always nice, and kind of want to bring this queen in and start going after white's queenside pawns. In the long run, I might want to advance these pawns and try to make a queen, but for the moment, these pawns are very solid, defending everything, so I don't want to rush that. That can be a way that that the game gets away from you when you're really winning, is you kind of push too far forward too quickly, open up some holes in your position, and then maybe your opponent starts to get a little bit of counterplay. So often not a bad idea to just kind of slow play it and just build up the position very gradually. Yeah, I don't actually see, I'm attacking 2 things. I don't know if my opponent can defend both. Don't see a way for them to do it. If b3, then queen takes a3. Rook d4. But this allows me to take here with check. King goes out. Wow. Okay, rook c3, double attack. I could take and check, but probably even more decisive is just take this. And I have this defended with the queen, but also the knight. Okay. Well, just if I played rook c8, my opponent could do the puzzle rush mate. That stupid mate that you get like every time in Puzzle Rush. They could actually do it. So let's not allow that. I'll offer a queen trade. Here, do I have some sort of checkmate with like knight g5? If king g4, queen e2 check, I can trade my knight for the rook. If king h4, I don't know. Just have to watch out for some sort of stalemate, I guess. Seems like there should be a checkmate here. What would it be? I actually don't see it. Let's just bring the rook over. Should lead to a quick mate. Okay, g4. We can go queen f2. Make sure our queen is not getting taken here. Opponent is playing it out to the bitter end here, which I respect. But it's going to be checkmate. Good game. All right, yeah, there we... one upside, at least for online speed chess, is, yeah, sometimes your opponent will pre-move something that just lets you take on e4. And then you get, well, you get a free center pawn, which is not bad. All right, 1067, closing in on 1100 here. We get white, which means we get to play knight f3. And g3, of course. So far, we've seen a lot of knight c6. Let's see what our opponent goes for. Knight f6. That would be considered a more conventional move, at least in terms of theory. But yeah, this knight c6 stuff, very, very popular. And, of course, d4, as usual, preventing e5. And we're going to get very similar setup to the previous game. It's actually not bad for black. The knight c6 is a little unorthodox, but not necessarily bad. And so we're looking to play knight c3. You could also do a setup with b3. Now if takes, I guess I just want to play queen a4 here to get that pawn back. Pinning and threatening once again, knight e5. I think maybe the best idea for black here is knight d7, breaking this pin and preparing to pop back out to c3. Yes, ready for the ready. So queen takes c4 is one threat, but possibly a bigger threat here is actually knight e5. Opponent evidently not scared of knight e5. Interesting. So for instance, knight e5 castles. That seems good, because we could just take on c6 and take on d4, potentially. Queen takes e4 also looks good. Knight e5, bishop e4. Is that anything? I don't know. Let's just I'm just going to keep it simple and play queen takes c4. We've got two center pawns versus one. This knight on c6 is not all that well placed, so I think we can just be kind of happy about this structure. So we just want to get our pieces out. At some point, we would like to get e4 in. I've got to be a little careful of playing rook d1 because there is a tactic with bishop c2, rook moves, knight a5, trapping my queen potentially. Bishop f4, maybe just bishop g5. And if h6, I don't think this bishop is a hard piece to find a good home for. I didn't like bishop f4 so much because of knight d5. Okay, b5 is maybe a threat now. It seems like that's what my opponent is setting up with a6 and queen d7. Knight e5, once again, looks pretty tempting. It's hitting a lot of stuff. They would have to take. Actually, this looks really good now. Because at the end of the day, this bishop is going to be hitting this pawn. Okay, where do they want to move their knight? d5, right. I think I just want to take on e7 to try to keep things simple. I think I'm emerging up a pawn here no matter what my opponent does. Because queen takes, I can go knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, defending e5. Knight takes, I simply have bishop takes b7. Rook b8, okay, I guess that's a little bit not that simple. But there's still bishop takes a6. I could also play rook fd1 first, but that allows queen c8, so I'm going to play bishop takes b7 first. But I might have an in-between move, rook d1 here. I think this looks strong because this queen is really lacking a good square. Can't come out anywhere along this diagonal, which means I guess it's forced to go to e8, but then I can play queen takes c7. Unless they want to give up the queen for two pieces, but that should not be enough. Okay, and now I think I can take another pawn and keep this rook bottled up. So we're up 2 pawns and black is pinned on the back rank, so it's looking good. And they just resign. So we saw same ideas. The knight c6 setup seems very common. c4, queen a4, knight e5. In this case, we just kind of developed a bit first, but queen d7 made knight e5 more appealing because it's also attacking the queen and cutting off this retreat square for the knight. Okay, 1074, 26 points to go to 1100. And we get the white pieces again. e5. Not the best response to knight f3 because we can take this. We are seeing maybe some benefits of playing slightly unorthodox. Our opponent's blundering center pawns. Now, how should we set up now? We could still go g3. Could play d4. I don't see anything wrong with just basically we're playing our usual g3 setup, but we're doing it up a pawn. So I don't know. That seems pretty good. Okay, now that they've done this, I think I want to play c4 to make it a little harder for them to. Or do I? Nah, I'm fine just castling. If they play d5, I'll play d4. And in fact, I want to play d4 anyway, just to start breaking up this center. Takes. And queen. It is always nice to get a queen here when a knight can't come there. Sure, let's go c5 to clamp down on this. Actually, I could take on a7. Kind of tempting. But you know what, we're already up a pawn. Let's focus on development. That's sort of the responsible way to do it. Opponent's still not defending a7. You know what, you don't. If you're going to ask me twice, okay, I will take it. So b6, but rook a8 is not even threatened because just the bishop would come over there. So let's go bishop e3 looks good. Rook d1 also looks good. Guess I'll keep some flexibility with my bishop and just play rook d1, I think. Start applying some pressure here. Bishop c2 would be kind of an annoying move because I don't really want to play rook d2. Okay, attacking this, I think I can just play b3. Just don't get the queen trap. Oh wait, oh no! The bishop was hanging on e7. I didn't see that in time. Okay. Well, now I guess we can play rook d2. And attack this and this. Okay. We get to rectify our mistake. Okay. And rook comes over there, knight takes d6. No. Probably just queen a7. Or let's play queen e7. We're up a lot of material, so we would be happy with a queen trade. And let's see, we could offer another queen trade with queen takes d6. This is the thing about being up material. You can just bully your opponent with trade offers because they can't afford to accept. Okay, let's do another piece in the game. And I could take that. I could also, though, just go queen d4 and threaten checkmate. Obviously, I had to save my queen. And let's see, maybe knight d6 now. Just want to keep it simple here. We're up a lot of material. I could also have taken there. That would have been fine, but you know, this light squared bishop is doing a good job defending my king. So if I can get away with not doing that, why not? But okay, let's do a bunch of trades. And we are up a bishop and 4 pawns. I guess that should be enough to win the game. And they do resign. All right, good game. Yeah, just maybe they pre-move e5, but e5 is a weird pre-move because e5 also allows d4, e5, d takes e5. So not sure what to make of that one. Our opponent is offering a rematch. You know, I think I'm going to just try to play all different players. So we'll say no thank you to the rematch. 1090. If we win this, we are at 1100. Okay, this should be the last game. It's the Nimzowitsch Sicilian. Oh, it's a Mora. Or maybe just queen. Nope. So against the Mora, I like to play knight f6. This forces a transposition into the Alapin. This tends to really frustrate Mora players. They really want to sack that pawn. It also makes our life easier in terms of preparation, so we don't have to learn a different system versus the Mora. We can just play what we already play against the Alapin. So I think this is a very practical way to play it. And my rule is I play knight c6, I play d6. If they ever attack d5, I play e6. Now queen f3 is an odd way to attack this because usually they would play knight c3 or bishop c4, developing a minor piece. This moves the queen early. It also undefends d4. So, I mean, I could think about taking d4 immediately. Knight takes d4, queen takes d5, knight c2, check. I'm going to take that rook in the corner. I've got a rook and a pawn for a knight. My knight could potentially be trapped. Or I could just play e6. In keeping with the keep it simple philosophy, let's play e6. Queen a5 check, bishop d2. I don't. Maybe then queen b. I mean, that's also pretty promising. But my overall strategy here is I'm mostly trying to keep it as simple as possible. So let's just develop, reintroduce this threat here. This queen on f3 is looking pretty misplaced. How do you want to defend d4? Knight e2 might be the best option, but it blocks in the bishop. Bishop e3. Now, though, I can come out with queen b6, and this is attacking two things at once. Apologies for drinking. It's like almost 100 degrees in Omaha today, though, so a little dehydrated after chasing my kids around all day. Yeah, I don't honestly see a great move for my opponent. Let's see, b3, I can just take on d4. Not worried about that pin because I can just play knight takes e3 whenever I want to. So yeah, I don't think there's a way to defend both of these pawns. My opponent seems to agree because they're thinking for quite a long time, so I guess they haven't found anything they like either. Queen goes back, but that does allow me to just take on b2. Hitting the rook as well. So knight d2 looks like the only move to save the rook. Then Lots of appealing options. Knight takes d4 is certainly possible, just grabbing another pawn. Knight takes e3 looks pretty good too, like bishop b4. Bishop d2. Well, this seems to let me grab that rook. I don't see their problem with this, so I'll take. And bishop comes out, but well, let's take another pawn. Let's get my queen out of the corner, hit the bishop, hit the center pawn. Take another pawn, why not? So we are up a rook and 3 pawns at the moment. And let's get ready to bring this bishop out. Okay. Well, I guess I could just play like bishop e7 and castles. Could also do bishop d6, queen h5. That seems kind of cool. I don't know. Let's not overthink it. Rook e4. Okay. Rook g4. Still not threatening anything as far as I can see. Could play just f5 here. Sometimes it's actually safer to have like a bit of room around your king just to be able to play like something like this. But okay, it's a mop-up operation. We're ahead a lot of material. Bishop h4 seems to trap that rook. I'm just gonna bring another piece into the game though. This rook isn't really doing anything at the moment anyway. Bishop c3 is would probably be a good try by my opponent, because then, oh, maybe knight c3 is even trickier, because if I take, queen takes, rook g7 check, rook takes e7, is that a draw? Might be a draw. I don't know. Let's not find out. Let's keep it simple again. If that's a draw, that's a really good trap actually, because the best traps are the ones that, you know, they're plausible and they like sort of entice your opponent. So it makes it look like my opponent could have missed rook takes c3 with a pin, which, to be fair, maybe they did. But then, you know, maybe there's a hidden flaw. Oh, actually, rook takes g7 check, bishop h6 check. Oh my god, I completely missed that. That would have been, I mean, I still would have been winning because I'm starting ahead by so far, but that would have been nasty. Opponent is still putting up some resistance. However, in this case, I can go queen somewhere here and threaten a mate. Still a possible way to mess up. Rook takes, king takes, bishop takes c3, king. Oh, I thought queen h5 is mate, but no, I can still go back. Okay. Well, let's play the really boring move, bishop f6. And with a rook and a bishop ahead, I think we are going to manage to win this one. Okay, they do resign. Yeah, there was... Where did that happen? Where I played queen d3. This would have been pretty scary. However, I've still got a rook and what, 2 bishops for the queen, so it's still a big material advantage, still a winning position. But yeah, probably shouldn't give up your queen when you're winning the game. But okay, yep, and that was the. I do like to force that transition. I don't want to go, I don't want to accept the Mora and find out what weird Mora stuff my opponents have been preparing and in their basement or whatever. I'll just play the Alapin, which is what I've prepared. Okay, and we are over 1100. We did it. We accomplished the goal for tonight. Streaming again Wednesday and Friday this week, getting to 1200 and 1300 by the end of the week, hopefully. If you made it this far, check out my courses on these openings. The links are in the video. And yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to get the notifications. We are going all the way up to at least 2200. So I will see you next time.